think you're a pretty smart shopper. You clip coupons occasionally, you look for sale tags, and you don't buy things you absolutely don't need, or so you tell yourself. But here's the uncomfortable truth that most people never want to face. The grocery store is designed, from the floor plan to the font size on the price tags, to work against you. Every single aisle is engineered to pull money out of your pocket in ways so subtle, you will walk out feeling like you got a great deal, when in reality, you have been had. We're not talking about obvious splurges like buying lobster on a Tuesday or loading up on luxury chocolates. We're talking about the quiet, invisible patterns, the habits that feel totally reasonable in the moment, that collectively drain hundreds of dollars from your budget every single month. These are the mistakes that don't feel like mistakes. They feel like smart choices, like convenience, like savings. That's exactly what makes them so dangerous. Most people genuinely believe they shop efficiently. Most people are wrong. The average household wastes somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 worth of groceries every single year. That's not a rounding error. That's a vacation. That's several months of a car payment. That's money that should be in your savings account, sitting in a landfill instead. So let's break it down. Let's talk about exactly what's draining your grocery budget, why it keeps happening, even to people who consider themselves careful spenders, and, most importantly, what you can do about it, starting on your very next shopping trip. These aren't vague, theoretical suggestions. These are specific, actionable shifts that will show up immediately in your weekly spending. Get ready, because some of these are going to sting. Not because they're complicated, but because they're so simple. And yet nearly everyone falls for them, week after week after week. Mistake number one, paying a fortune for pre-cut and pre-packaged produce. Let's start with something that's sitting in almost every grocery cart in America right now. Pre-cut vegetables and bagged, pre-washed greens. That bag of chopped romaine, those pre-sliced bell peppers, those cubed butternut squash cubes, they all carry the same promise. They promise to save you time. What they actually do is drain your money at a rate that would shock you if you ever sat down and calculated it. Here's the raw math. A whole head of romaine lettuce costs roughly 9 cents per ounce at most grocery stores. Now grab that convenient bag of pre-chopped romaine from the shelf right next to it. You're looking at around 50 cents per ounce. Let that sink in. You are paying more than 4.5 times the price. A markup of roughly 455% for the privilege of skipping about 5 minutes of chopping. 5 minutes. That's it. That's the entire value proposition. The store hires someone to do 5 minutes of knife work, runs the pieces through an industrial washing machine, bags everything in a plastic pouch filled with nitrogen gas to slow spoilage, and then charges you 5 times the original price. And millions of people pay it every single week without blinking. But the markup isn't even the worst part. Real financial damage happens after you get home. Pre-cut produce starts deteriorating the moment the knife touches it. Once plant cells are broken, they begin releasing moisture and breaking down at an accelerated rate. That bag of pre-chopped greens that seemed so fresh in the store, it'll be wilted, slimy, and destined for the trash can in 2 to 3 days. A whole head of romaine, stored properly in your refrigerator, can stay crisp and fresh for well over a week. So you're paying 5 times more for something that lasts 1/3 as long. You're essentially guaranteeing food waste built right into the purchase. And you're doing this while convincing yourself you're making a smart, time-efficient choice. Americans collectively spend over $10 billion annually on pre-cut produce markups. That's not a typo. $10 billion in extra spending, much of which ends up composted or thrown away. Meanwhile, the person who grabs a whole head of lettuce, takes it home, spends literally 5 minutes with a sharp knife, and stores the pieces in an airtight container. That person is eating fresher food, wasting less, and spending a fraction of the cost. The fix couldn't be simpler. Buy whole produce when possible. Spend a few minutes on the weekend doing basic prep. Invest in a decent cutting board and a sharp knife if you haven't already. Those two tools will pay for themselves within a single month of whole produce shopping. Your food will taste better, last longer, and cost dramatically less. This applies beyond lettuce too. Whole carrots versus baby carrots. Significant price difference, same nutritional value. Whole butternut squash versus pre-cubed. grocery industry has mastered, making things look like a deal when they absolutely are not. The most common way they do this is through strategic package sizing combined with confusing price presentation. You see a number on a tag. That number looks smaller than the number on the tag next to it. Your brain registers cheaper and your hand reaches out. Transaction complete. Store wins. The only number that actually tells you what you're paying is the unit price, the cost per ounce, per gram, per count, or per pound. It's usually printed in tiny font on the lower portion of the shelf tag, easy to miss and seemingly designed to be ignored. But that little number is the only honest price in the entire store. Let's use a concrete example. A 32-ounce tub of plain yogurt sits on the shelf priced at $4.49. Quick math, that's roughly 14 cents per ounce. Right next to it, a 4-pack of individual 6-ounce cups is priced at $3.99. That seems cheaper at a glance. The total number is lower. But do the math. $3.99 divided by 24 total ounces equals about 17 cents per ounce. You're paying 20% more per unit of actual food just because the packaging looked like a deal. Multiply that same pattern across an entire grocery cart: yogurt, pasta sauce, cereal, juice, cleaning products, and you're overpaying by $5, $10, sometimes $20 per shopping trip without realizing it. Over a month, that's money that should be staying in your wallet, redirected instead into the store's margin. Only 11 states in the US currently require stores to display unit pricing. Everywhere else, it's voluntary, meaning stores can make it as inconvenient as possible to comparison shop honestly. Research from consumer advocacy groups shows that when unit prices are displayed in small fonts or inconsistent locations, roughly 60% of shoppers simply don't notice them. The solution is straightforward. Before anything goes into your cart, check the unit price. If you can't find it on the shelf tag, do the math yourself. Price divided by ounces or count gives you the real cost. Compare that number across brands and sizes, not the total price on the label. This single habit, applied consistently, can save most households between $30 and $60 per month with zero sacrifice in quality or quantity. Also, be alert to the mid-size trap. Stores often price the small and large sizes to make the medium size look like the best deal when it frequently isn't. The math might actually favor the smaller size or the larger size, depending on the product and the week's pricing. Never assume. Always calculate. Mistake number 3, falling for buy one, get one deals. On perishables, a few phrases in the grocery world trigger more excitement than buy one, get one free. It sounds like pure victory. The store is basically handing you something for nothing, right? Except the store is a business. The store does not hand out free things. What the store is actually doing is getting you to buy twice as much as you planned, often of something that will spoil before you can finish it. Here's how the trap plays out. You walk past the refrigerated section and spot a BOGO deal on guacamole. 2 tubs for the price of 1, normally $4.99 each. Your brain does the quick calculation. 2 for 1. Amazing. Both go into the cart. You take them home, use one that evening with dinner, stick the other in the back of the refrigerator, and forget about it. By day 5, it's brown, oxidized, and headed for the trash. You pay $4.99 for 1 tub of guacamole that you use, plus you paid for the labor and overhead involved in producing and stocking the second tub that you threw away. That's not a deal. That's paying full price for one item and receiving the satisfaction of wasting another. Grocery chains understand this dynamic completely. Industry research shows that BOGO promotions drive sales volume up by 20 to 30% on promoted items, and that roughly 1/3 of shoppers overbuy perishable items during these events. The store doesn't care if the second tub gets eaten. They already got your money. The free item isn't free to produce. It's built into the store's promotional math, factored into the overall pricing strategy to ensure margins are protected. BOGO deals are genuinely excellent for non-perishable pantry staples. Pasta, canned tomatoes, dried beans, olive oil, condiments, paper towels, items with long shelf lives where buying double makes practical sense. If you already use something regularly and it won't go bad, buying 2 is smart. But perishables, throw away every single time. Hey, if this is helping you think differently about your grocery habits, hit that like button, drop a comment with your biggest shopping mistake, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Mistake number 4, staying blindly loyal to brand names. Brand loyalty is one of the most profitable things that has ever happened to the food industry. Decades of advertising have convinced millions of people that the specific logo on their peanut butter jar is somehow tied to their identity, their childhood, their values. Stores know this, brands know this, and they charge you handsomely for it. Here's what the numbers actually look like. A 16-ounce jar of a major national peanut butter brand runs around $3.999 at most grocery stores. The store brand equivalent, often made in the same facility, sometimes literally the same product in different packaging, sits on the shelf next to it at $2.19. That's a 45% price difference for what is, in terms of ingredients and nutrition facts, frequently an identical product. Don't believe it? Blind taste tests tell an interesting story. When regular shoppers, including people who consider themselves absolutely devoted to their preferred brand, are given unmarked samples of name brand versus store brand products, the results are consistently humbling. The majority of people either cannot reliably distinguish between them or actually prefer the store brand when they don't know what they're eating. The brand preference, it turns out, is often driven entirely by the label, the packaging, and the advertising, not by what the food actually tastes like. This isn't true for every single category. There are products where brand differences are real and meaningful, specialty sauces, certain cheeses, specific spices, where quality genuinely varies. But for core pantry staples, cooking oils, flour, sugar, canned vegetables, rice, dried pasta, most condiments, cereal store brands are almost always comparable in quality and dramatically lower in price. If you made the switch on just 4 regularly purchased items per shopping trip, choosing store brand over name brand, you'd save somewhere in the range of $25 to $30 per month for the average household. Over a year, that's $300 to $420. That's real money. That's not nothing. The challenge is psychological. It feels like you're compromising, choosing the lesser option, settling. But that feeling is manufactured. It was engineered by billions of dollars of advertising designed specifically to make you feel exactly that way. The actual product in the generic jar is usually excellent. Give it a fair shot. Your bank account will adjust much faster than your ego. Mistake number 5, shopping on an empty stomach. This one sounds like an old wives' tale, but the research behind it is consistent, well-documented, and kind of alarming. Shopping while hungry doesn't just make you want to buy snacks. It fundamentally alters your decision-making process in ways that inflate your entire grocery bill, not just the junk food section. Studies comparing shopping behavior between hungry and satiated shoppers found meaningful differences in total spending. Hungry shoppers consistently spent more, not just on chips and cookies, but on overall quantities, on items not on their list, on unnecessary duplicates. The average receipt gap between a hungry shopper and someone who ate before shopping was significant enough to cover a full additional meal. The explanation is neurological. When blood sugar is low, your brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational decision-making, delayed gratification, and impulse control, operates less effectively. Meanwhile, the emotional and reward-driven parts of your brain become more active and more persuasive. You're literally working with compromised judgment while simultaneously navigating a store designed to trigger impulse purchases. It's a double disadvantage. The worst time window? Late afternoon into early evening, roughly 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. This is when most people shop after work, when energy levels are typically lowest, when hunger peaks, and when willpower is most depleted after a full day pomegranate molasses, fish sauce, sumac, and you spend $8 or $9 buying a jar or bottle of it. You use 2 tablespoons. The rest sits in your refrigerator or pantry for 11 months, takes up space, eventually expires or goes stale and gets thrown away. This pattern, repeated a few times a year, represents surprising budget leakage. The individual purchases don't feel large, but when you add up every specialty item bought for a single recipe over the course of 12 months, many households discover they've spent $80 to $150 on ingredients that contributed maybe 3 or 4 meals. That's an astonishing cost per use. The solution isn't to stop cooking interesting food. It's to be strategic about specialty ingredient purchases. Before buying something unfamiliar, look up at least 3 or 4 other recipes that use the same ingredient, ones you genuinely want to make in the coming weeks. If you can see yourself using that bottle of fish sauce in 5 different dishes over the next month, the purchase makes sense. If you can only think of one application for it, consider whether the dish is worth the full bottle price. Alternatively, look for recipes that accomplish the same flavor goals using pantry staples you already own. Many specialty ingredients can be approximated with combinations of more common items. Tamarind paste, for example, can often be replaced with a combination of lime juice and brown sugar in many applications. The result won't be identical, but it may be close enough for a home kitchen without requiring a $9 specialty purchase. Some grocery stores also offer small quantities of specialty spices and ingredients in bulk sections, which can significantly reduce the cost of experimenting with new flavors. Pay attention to what's available in bulk at your local store. Mistake number 7. Ignoring the freezer section for the wrong reasons. Frozen. Food has an image problem. For many shoppers, frozen suggests compromise, lesser quality, reduced nutrition, a step down from fresh. This perception costs those shoppers real money and sometimes even deprives them of genuinely better nutritional options. The reality of frozen produce is well established by nutritional science. Vegetables and fruits destined for freezing are typically harvested at peak ripeness, precise moment when nutrient content is highest, and then flash frozen within hours of being picked. This process locks in vitamins and minerals at their peak levels. Fresh produce, by contrast, often travels days or weeks from farm to store to your kitchen. During that transit time, nutrient degradation occurs. A fresh spinach leaf that spent 10 days in a refrigerated truck may actually contain fewer vitamins than its frozen counterpart that was flash frozen the same day it was picked. And the price difference is substantial. Frozen spinach typically costs 60 to 70% less than fresh spinach on a per-serving basis, lasts for months instead of days, and produces 0 food waste because you use exactly what you need and return the rest to the freezer. The same math applies to frozen broccoli, peas, corn, edamame, and most other vegetables. For certain applications, soups, stews, stir-fries, smoothies, sauces, frozen produce is completely indistinguishable from fresh in the final dish. For raw applications like salads, fresh is the appropriate choice. The defaulting to fresh for everything, simply because of an outdated perception about frozen quality, is an expensive habit with no nutritional justification. Enjoying this so far? Give it a like, leave a comment with your go-to money-saving tip, and subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. Mistake number 8, not tracking what you already have at home. This mistake is so mundane, it's easy to underestimate its impact. But buying duplicates of items you already own because you weren't sure if you had them or assumed you were running low is one of the most consistent sources of grocery waste and overspending in the average household. How many times have you come home from the grocery store and discovered you already had 2 cans of diced tomatoes or 3 containers of the same spice or enough pasta to last a month? You bought more because you didn't check, and now you have excess that may or may not get used before it expires. A quick inventory of your pantry, refrigerator, and freezer before every shopping trip sounds tedious. In practice, it takes about 5 minutes, and it prevents you from buying redundant items, helps you plan meals around what needs to be used, and ensures nothing expires unnecessarily. That 5-minute investment regularly saves households $10 to $20 per shopping trip with unnecessary duplicate purchases. Better it exists or walk past it without stopping. The markdown section, sometimes called the day-old bread section, the manager's specials, the clearance rack, or simply indicated by yellow or orange tags, contains perfectly good food at dramatically reduced prices. Bread and baked goods approaching their sell-by date. Produce that's slightly less than cosmetically perfect, but fully nutritious and delicious. Packaged meats marked down for quick sale. Dented cans of shelf-stable goods at significant discounts. These items are not compromised food. They're full-quality products that happen to be approaching a date threshold or a cosmetic standard, being sold at 30%, 50%, even 70% off regular price. If you're going to use something immediately, or if you're going to freeze meat before it expires, markdown items represent genuine savings with zero sacrifice. A perfectly ripe avocado in the markdown bin is often a better buy than an unripe one at full price, simply because it's ready to use today. Make it a habit to swing through whatever discount or clearance section your store maintains. Spend 2 minutes scanning it before you commit to full price purchases. In many cases, you'll find exactly what you needed at a fraction of the cost. Mistake number 10. Underestimating the power of meal planning. Every mistake on this list feeds into a common root cause: shopping without a clear plan. And the most effective single intervention for grocery budget control, the one that addresses the most mistakes simultaneously, is committing to a genuine meal plan before every shopping trip. Meal planning doesn't require elaborate spreadsheets or hours of culinary creativity. It requires knowing before you walk into the store what you intend to cook for the week ahead. 7 dinners. Lunches accounted for. Breakfast is covered. That's it. Once you know what you're making, you buy exactly what you need to make it. Nothing more, nothing less. The financial impact of this single habit is dramatic. Households that meal plan consistently spend 20 to 30% less on groceries than those that shop without a plan. They waste significantly less food because every ingredient purchased has a designated purpose. They make fewer impulse purchases because they enter the store with a focused list. And they eat better food because meals are thought out in advance rather than assembled desperately from whatever's on sale. Meal planning also allows you to shop strategically around what's on sale rather than simply buying sale items impulsively. When you know you're making pasta twice this week, you can stock up on pasta sauce that's on sale. When you plan a stir fry for Thursday, you can check whether frozen vegetables are a better value than fresh this week. The plan gives you context for every purchase decision. Start small if the concept feels overwhelming. Plan just 3 or 4 dinners instead of 7. Even partial planning creates significant improvement. Build the habit gradually, and within a month or 2, it'll feel entirely natural. Mistake number 11. Letting herbs and fresh greens die in the crisper fresh. Fresh herbs are one of the most expensive items in the produce section on a per-ounce basis. A small bunch of fresh basil, cilantro, or parsley can cost $2 to 3, and, if stored carelessly, will be wilted and yellowed within 3 or 4 days. Most households buy fresh herbs for a specific recipe, use a small portion, and watch the rest slowly deteriorate into something unrecognizable. There are 2 practical ways to stop this cycle. The first is proper storage. Most fresh herbs last significantly longer when treated like fresh flowers, trimmed at the stem, placed in a glass of water, and stored in the refrigerator, covered loosely with a plastic bag. Cilantro, parsley, and mint, stored this way, can last 1 to 2 weeks instead of 3 to 4 days. Hardier herbs like thyme, rosemary, and oregano do well wrapped in a slightly damp paper towel inside an airtight container. The second option is growing your own. A small herb garden, even just a few pots on a windowsill, provides essentially unlimited fresh herbs for the cost of a seed packet and some soil. Basil, mint, chives, and parsley are forgiving plants that grow readily indoors with minimal attention. One successful basil plant replaces dozens of store-bought herb bunches over the course of a growing season. For herbs you buy but can't use before they turn, freezing is an excellent option. Chop herbs, place them in an ice cube tray, cover with olive oil or water, and freeze. Herb cubes can go directly into soups, sauces, and sautés for months afterward, providing fresh flavor without any waste. Mistake number 12. Skipping store sales cycles without realizing faster, and canned goods cycle through promotions regularly. Dairy products often have weekly specials that rotate. If you track what you normally buy and notice when each category hits its sale price, you can stock up at the low point and avoid buying at full price. This doesn't require extraordinary effort. Simply paying attention for a few months, noting when your regularly purchased items go on sale, and roughly how often, gives you a working map of your specific store's promotional patterns. Once you have that map, you can buy ahead strategically, ensuring you never pay full price for things you use consistently. Combine this with coupons for items you already plan to buy. Never coupons as a justification for buying something you wouldn't otherwise want. And you create a system that consistently generates 15 to 25% savings on your overall grocery bill without any sacrifice in quality, variety, or enjoyment. This content is all about making your money work harder. Like, if it's helping you, comment your favorite tip below and subscribe so you never miss a video. Mistake number 13. Not comparing prices across stores for key items. Brand loyalty extends beyond products to stores. Many households shop exclusively at one grocery chain out of habit, convenience, or simple inertia, assuming prices are roughly similar everywhere. They are not. Price differences across grocery stores can be substantial, particularly on key categories like meat, dairy, produce, and household staples. You don't need to drive across town to 3 different stores every week to take advantage of this. Simply being aware of price levels at 2 or 3 nearby options gives you enough information to make strategic decisions. Maybe your regular grocery store is competitive on produce, but significantly overpriced on meat. Maybe the warehouse club makes sense for certain non-perishable staples, but not for fresh items. Maybe the local ethnic grocery store sells certain produce at a fraction of what mainstream chains charge. Even doing 20% of your shopping at a lower cost alternative store can meaningfully reduce your overall monthly grocery spend. The key is knowing where the price gaps exist and routing specific purchases accordingly. A few price comparisons on your most frequently purchased items across 2 or 3 local options will give you a clear picture within a single shopping week. The bigger picture, what all of this adds up to, let's be honest about the math here. Each individual mistake on this list might seem like it's worth only a few dollars per week. Skip the pre-cut lettuce, save $3. Buy store brand peanut butter, save $1.80. Eat before shopping, save $4. It can feel like nickel and diming, too small to bother with, too tedious to track. But here's what happens when you stack these habits together across a full month. $5 saved on produce markups, $12 saved by reading unit prices carefully, $20 saved by not overbuying on BOGO deals, $15 saved by shopping on a full stomach with a real list, $8 saved by switching 4 name brand items to store brand, $10 saved by buying frozen instead of fresh for cooking applications. That's $70 in a single month. Across a year, that's $840. For many households, being thoughtful about these patterns could save $1,000 to $1,500 annually. That's not theoretical. That's money that most households are currently spending unnecessarily on habits so ingrained they don't even register as choices anymore. They just feel like the way we shop. The grocery store is not neutral territory. It is a carefully designed commercial environment built to maximize spending.